So today I am super excited because I have somebody that I have met through the wonderful social media, and I think we met somewhere else, but we're going to find out later. This is Mark Anthony King, and he is a life strategist, and I am going to pick his brain, and we're going to talk about different angles of stories and things that have happened to him to relate for you. Welcome.
Ooh, now that was an intro. Oh my God. Hello. It's great to be here.
Great. I'm so excited you're here because, I talk to a lot of people and, I'm in a different age group per se. We're not going to say what age group that is. And I think it'd be so
early 20s.
It'd be so wonderful to have a perspective of somebody in your age group and things that have happened to you and how you have changed your life and all those wonderful things that can happen. And coming from you, I just think that somebody out there that would hear this, it could possibly touch their lives and take them to the direction that we want them to go.
Most definitely, yeah.
So, my very first question I wanted to ask you is tell me a little bit about your background in the past and then, if you don't mind, tell me when was that pivotal moment where things kind of changed for you?
Oh boy, okay. That's a loaded question. So, I come from a background of Hispanics and Italian. So we've got Cuban and Italian. And one of the unifying things, right, among Mediterraneans and Hispanics is that we've got big families, right? We've got these massive families. And I was always this really gregarious and outgoing kid, but things changed for me at a very early age. Things changed I had my midlife crisis when I was about 4 years old.
Okay, I want to know about that.
I was always an overachiever, so I had to get it out of the way early. My grandmother used to take care of me when I was a kid. I was raised by a really, really young mom. Mom had me when she was 19 years old. So it's one of those situations where a baby's raising a baby. Mm-hmm. And they got divorced about maybe 2 years later. So single mom growing up, and in between that time, my grandmother used to take care of me, and I spent so much time with her. I mean, she was my everything, because I was with her from the moment the sun was up till the sun came down. I spent 12 hours a day. And one day, because of the negligence of a hospital, she died of a brain aneurysm. So, at that moment, my world came crashing down. And we think that at that young age, things don't start to affect us. But by 3 years old, we've already started to formulate the person that we're becoming, and we're taking in all these experiences that are happening around us. And in our own unique way, we're creating this image of what life truly is. Right?
Yeah, you create your persona based on what the situations in your life, because you don't have anything else, right?
Most definitely. And there's an expression that says, give me the child at 3 and I'll show you the man or the woman at 5. By that early on, that's it. Who you've become is there. Any moment after that, you've got to choose what you want to enhance or get rid of. When my grandmother passed away, I completely retreated. It's a really interesting thing, Monica, because I went from being outgoing and gregarious, and Hispanics were always huggy and kissy and touchy-feely, right? Even with strangers.
Yes.
So I went from being that way to being completely the opposite. I retreated into myself. Mm-hmm. And you know how as a coach, as a therapist, as somebody who deals with the nuances of the mind, oftentimes you have to go into your past to see, why was I this way? Why did this happen to me? Why did I have to go through that? And my belief that I formed at that time, that I didn't come to the conclusion 2 decades later, was that when you get close to somebody, They will hurt you and they will leave you, because I felt abandoned by my only source of love and certainty and security. So that's what that taught me. And interestingly enough, you know, your beliefs dictate what you attract into your life. Your beliefs
Yes.
dictate what you see, what you attract, what experiences, what people, what everything. So walking around with that belief that anybody that you get close to is inevitably going to hurt you and leave you. I mean, you can imagine how wonderful my life was, right? You know, just being held down by the weight of that, it launched me into a inability to connect with people on any level. I mean, you know, I couldn't even connect superficially.
So was the incident of your grandmother passing, was that something that took you to that moment and put you in that state? And did you get depressed, or did you, what happened?
A series of things happened. I retreated to such a degree that it's almost like my psychology changed. And when your psychology changes, your physiology changes, and everything has a tendency of spiraling in the direction of that belief. Whenever anybody would approach me, any of my classmates would approach me to be friends with me, I remember thinking, like, why would this person want to be friends with me? Don't they know who I truly am? Why would they want to invest their time in me when there's so many other people worthwhile to connect with? Is the one unifying truth among my family is that when my grandmother died, I became a completely different person. Personality wise, it shifted on its axis, you know?
But yeah, you lost the most important person in your life. I mean,
Most
that's,
definitely. And it's an interesting thing, right? Because you've got these two backgrounds. You've got Mediterranean and you've got Hispanic. So there was never a shortage of people around me. Ever, ever, ever. Where my house was just always full of people. And yet somehow, among that sea of people, I felt truly and completely alone and isolated.
wow, I can imagine. Well, I do, because my background is kind of similar to that point, and I understand being lonely, and just depending on that one person, how your life could change. So you got really down, and you
Yes.
changed your personality.
Yeah.
Is that when you had some issues with your weight as well, if I understand, or?
Yeah, well, remember, I said I was an overachiever, so so we're not done yet.
Oh, okay.
Yes. It was around this same time, about 7 years old, where so I don't know if you remember, but back in the 80s and early 90s, bodybuilding was really, really big. It was
Yes.
very popular. And my mother had one of these like almost Bowflex machines in
I remember those.
you know, where you got the lat pull down and the chest press and all that. And she introduced me to a man named Arnold Schwarzenegger at the time.
Hello.
And I thought, I want to look like that guy. So I watched a movie called Pumping Iron, and I see him lifting heavy things. And my mind says, well, I've got those things in my mom's room. I'm going to start lifting heavy things so I can be like Arnold. And I gave myself a hernia. I tore my abdominal wall.
Oh,
My I forget if it was a large intestine or the small intestine ended up spilling out onto the skin and pushing up against the skin. So I had a lump. And you know, they say motion creates emotion.
yes.
The best way to snap out of something is to get up and move, dance. Or like Joseph McClendon says, shake that ass, you know? You got to do something. So I was dealing with this depression, and now, due to doctor's orders, I was bedridden because I needed to get it surgically taken care of. So not only was I depressed and in my head, but I had to be lying down for a long period of time, and I couldn't go outside and play. I couldn't do anything other than sit. You know, you're depressed, right? In your mind, you're depressed, and your stomach growls, and you eat something, you feel good. So in your mind, unconsciously, you start linking the belief that food is comfort. Food will make you feel good when everything else makes you feel bad. And between the ages of 7 and 13, I managed to gain well over 70 pounds.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a
And
whole person.
definitely by the time, in fact, by the time I was 13 years old, I was exactly 70 pounds over the upper limit of what my normal weight should have been.
Okay, so tell me, so what did you do? What was the shift here? What happened?
Fortunately, when you hit a very low point, if you don't dwell in that space, if you don't live there, because that's a mistake that we make. You need to hit a low, but it's there to teach you something. And that low taught me that, or life has got to be more than what you're living right now. You know, it forced me to become introspective, but not from a victim perspective. I was taking inventory and stock of my life and my decisions and everything that had led up to that moment. And I came to the painful conclusion, you know, that it was all me. It wasn't because of my grandma. It wasn't because I was picked on in school. It wasn't because my grandfather and my biological father and my uncles physically abused me. It had nothing to do with that. It was how I was interpreting those situations. It's how I was communicating my external circumstances internally. That's what it was. You know, nobody likes to look in the mirror. Nobody likes to face facts, especially if you're fat. You definitely don't want to look in the mirror, right? Because we try to avoid it at all costs. Every high and every painful low was me. And when that happens, you free yourself because you stop playing the victim. Yes. I always say there's 3 roles in life that you can play. You can play the hero, you can play the victim, or you can play the villain. And if somebody were to ask me, Mark, obviously you want to be a hero, but what's the worst role that you can play? I think most people would think villain. No. Victim is infinitely worse than villain, because at the very least, all things considered, the villain is consciously creating his or her reality. The victim lives at the mercy of the protection of the hero, or at the mercy of the villain not paying attention to them. And I decided to be a hero. So I took inventory of my life. What I asked myself, okay, what do you love about your life right now? Not really anything. I love my mom, but that's pretty much it, you know? So I said, okay, what do you not like? So I went, okay, I don't like the way that I look. I don't like the fact that I feel socially awkward around people. I don't like the fact that I can't connect with people. I don't like the fact that I'm 70 pounds overweight. I don't like that I'm painfully shy. I started going through the list and I said, okay, so what do you have to do? I mean, at 13 years old, I was neuro-linguistic programming the crap out of my mind, unbeknownst to me. And I said, okay, what do you need to do, or what can you do in order for your circumstances to be different? So I thought, okay, what can I do to put in the minimum amount of effort to get the maximum amount of return?
That's a smart way of thinking. I love that.
Your energetic investment. Like, why reinvent the wheel or do something that is unnecessary? So I started taking acting classes because I knew that, okay, I'm forced to be around people, so I'm going to have to connect just by proximity. And I'm going to have to break out of my shell a little bit because I'm going to have to stand in front of them and do these scenes and monologues. And I said, okay, well, that covers emotionally what you don't like. What about physically? How do you change a temple? No more vite empanizado con papita frita, you know, on a mountain of white rice. You know, I had this sandwich that I loved. So it was 2 Eggo waffles, and I would take every single ridge in that waffle. I would meticulously, because I always had a little OCD, fill with butter. Then I would pour syrup on top of that. And then I would put not sour cream, cheddar ruffle potato chips on top of that, and I would close that up. That was my daily treat.
Oh my!
I was a very healthy person. with fitness, I made every single mistake in the book. I ended up having, and it's so funny when we go from one extreme to the other. I thought to myself, because I ended up being anorexic, I ended up being bulimic, I ended up binge eating. So I just traded one evil for another.
Yeah.
And at 16, it's a really interesting thing, because at 16, I took it a different step. I took it another step further, and I decided to become a model. So I started modeling for Catalog and Runway. So I looked incredible. I finally had the six pack, right? So I came to the painful realization that even though I looked the way that I wanted to, I was still as insecure, I was still as unhappy physically as I was when I was 13 years old, closet eating and binging.
So let me ask you something though. So you reached that goal.
Yeah.
That wasn't even enough, because you really had not gotten to where the real problem, the real issue was, right?
That's exactly right. Because like most other people, I was focused on the wrong thing.
Mm.
I was focused on changing what was outside of me. And what we need to come to terms with and truly understand is that everything in your external circumstances, everything that you can see, touch, taste, feel, hear, everything tangible and third dimensional, this, right? This stuff, that is all a product of our internal world. How can I put this eloquently? Further the species, if you will, right? It's for there to be congruency. That means for there to be alignment between what you see on the outside and what you have on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
So what I saw on the outside at the time is what I wanted, but there was a congruency with the inside, because on the inside, I was still that little fat boy that was depressed and anxious. And it doesn't matter in what great shape you get into, or what, it didn't matter how in shape I got, or how great my abs looked at the time, if the psychology didn't adapt to the physiology.
And that is so common with people. The people have this vision that they want to be a certain way or be somebody.
Yeah.
And then they get there, and you hear that over and over again. People become rich, or they have all the things that they think that's going to make them happy and get them to the right place. And you find out that they are actually missing that one piece. And that's the piece that it's your brain, what you're thinking about yourself, truly, right?
Yeah. And to me, that is what, you hit the nail on the head with that. That is, in my opinion, what ultimate failure truly means. Because I can tell you, I've been through a lot in my life. I've been through physical abuse. I've been through emotional abuse. I've been bullied. I've been unfairly labeled. I've lost a lot of people in my life. So I've lived a lot in my 29 years. But I can tell you with complete certainty that the greatest pain I've ever experienced in my life was having this goal in my heart, this burning goal, achieving it, and then being like, my God, it didn't do what I thought it was going to do. It didn't make me feel the way that I thought it was going to feel. I have this beautiful woman in my life, but I don't have that connection that I was searching for. Right? I finally made more money in the last 6 months than I had in the previous 5-10 years. But I still don't have that sense of financial security and abundance that I thought it was going to give me.
So what's the secret then?
The secret is you need to have your mind, body, and spirit aligned. You can't have one without the other. I mean, that's the only way that you're gonna be able to get from where you are currently, and whatever goals you want to manifest for your life, be they physical, emotional, financial, romantic, spiritual. If you don't have those three components perfectly aligned and supporting one another, then you deserve to be spinning your wheels for.
So let's kind of wrap it up here. I think that what I really would love to know is, so how do you know that you have these three components aligning? And what do you tell people? What would you want to tell people that are listening to us that it's like something they haven't heard? I want to see if there's something that they have not heard that is going to touch them. What would that be?
One word. I don't want to complicate things. Synchronicity. That's it.
I love that movie, by the way.
Right? You know that your life, you know that your mind, your body, and your spirit are in perfect alignment if you are attracting synchronicities into your life. Meaning, we all have these goals and these desires that we want, these things that we want to, there's a beautiful book called The Course in Miracles. These trivial things that we want to achieve, right? These thing goals. And you know that you're in alignment when, absent your conscious intention, you are attracting opportunities that will help you get from where you are now to where you want to be. In any area, you are attracting the right relationships, the right circumstances, the right moments, the right timing. Absent your consciousness, they're showing up in your life at such a rate that you do not know what to do with them. So when these things start materializing, these people, you know that you're aligned. And if they're not, you know that you've got work to do.
I love that because, yeah, I believe in that so much too. And it's funny how when you have the two things aligned and you start working on that third one, it just all happens. Yeah. And it happens so fast sometimes. Some days you're like, whoa, what's happening? And I've been writing them down on my phone because I forget. And I'm like, oh my God, this happened today. This person, I ran into this situation. And it's like, when you start thinking about it, you go, this is not coincidentally happening here. It's something that just like, it's supposed to be there for a reason for me. Yeah. And so, yeah, I love that you bring that up because that can change somebody just like that.
The most incredible equation, the most incredible math equation is mind plus body plus spirit equals divine alignment.
Exactly. That's it. Well, yeah. I love that. I'm going to have you back because there's so much stuff I want to talk to you. I know that you do NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, which I, of course, learned when I worked for Tony Robbins, and we taught that. I believe in that. There's just so many cool things and things that people can actually use for depression and anxiety and for other things in their lives. And so I want to make sure that we will leave all your links after this podcast. I want to make sure everybody knows how to get a hold of you if they have questions or they just want to see your gorgeous face because they have to.
You're so good for my ego.
And I know, seriously, and I will just make sure that everybody has that information. And I am just honored that you are part of this podcast. And we will have you here soon. And thank you for all your insight. And I know some things are tough to talk about, believe me. And your honesty and your heart in this conversation is truly appreciated. So,
my goodness, thank you. I received that.
See you the next time.
Yes, my dear.
Bye.
Bye.